prep that salted cod for cooking, for making the stewed salted cod or salt fish. And what I'm doing here is a bit unconventional for many people. It's not something my mom would do, or my grandma, or my dad, or anyone like that. I just poured boiling water into a bowl. You need a nice thick bowl because you're pouring boiling water onto that salted cod. We are trying to achieve a couple things. We are trying to rehydrate that salted cod, and because it's dried, and we're trying to remove most of the salt. It's very salty, and the key is to remove some of that salt but keep back a little bit. And as the salted cod sits in that hot water there, we got to get it to cool down so we can handle it. Let's shift our attention to the stove here, where I have a pot of water coming up to a boil. And the reason I'm doing it this way is because of convenience. If you go to the frozen section in your grocery store, you will find frozen cassava, manioc, yuca, whatever you call it. You will find it there in packages, already frozen, and it's already peeled, and it's very convenient, and I can guarantee you it will cook nice and soft. And basically all you would do is bring water up to a boil, and then you would toss it into there, and you would cook it according to the package directions. You will notice in some packages it will say to cook it in salted water. The remaining salt from that salted cod, once we stew it, that salt will be enough to season everything properly. So all we're going to do, bring that up to a boil, we're going to reduce it to a simmer and allow it to cook. So we got that bubble happening now, which means it's come up to a boil. But you see all that froth and stuff at the top there? I'm just going to turn my heat down to a sort of a medium low. We want to sort of skim that out. That's all the impurities and extra starch. And we're just going to toss that into the rubbish or down the sink. Just skim that off there and allow that to continue boiling. Let's jump back to the pot now with the boiling cassava. A true way, it's been going for about 20 minutes. And I know for a fact that this is fully tender, but a true way to know if it's fully tender, you would take a paring knife and you would go into the thickest part, and there's no resistance. Notice how smooth it goes through in there. So what we need to do now is drain it in the colander, and we'll allow that to cool down, because there's another step we need to get to properly prepare this for the fry part of the recipe. We already did the boil part, we've got to do the fry part, but we've got to allow it to cool down first. Which means it's a great time to go back to that salted cod now. It's cool to the touch. So what I'm going to do is sort of massage it and squeeze it, and we want to drain that water out. Try not to get rid of any of that salted cod there. Hit it with some cool water, and again I'm rinsing it again in this cool water. And we're going to drain that again, nice and dry. We're trying to waste water either, because water bill high these days. And using our fingers or two forks, what you want to do is sort of flake that salted cod. Just flake it. And the reason why I like using my fingers is because I can feel for if there are any, sometimes a bone may sneak in there, and we really don't want that. As I said, it's all about having fun and not choking on a bone, right? And it's all about being careful as well too. So we've got it in nice big chunky pieces. I don't feel any bones, and this is prepared. This is the way I like doing this version of salted cod, and that was the sort of skinny bits that I bought there. You'll need a nice big sort of a saucepan. In my case here, I'm using my clay pot on a medium heat. It's nice and warm. If you want to pull out that Caribbean Dutchy iron pot, by all means do so. And I'm going in with a good dose of olive oil. It may seem like a lot, but you do need it, ladies and gentlemen. I think I mentioned earlier there that if you wanted to use vegetable oil, if you wanted to use coconut oil, by all means, if those oils are your favorite type of oil to use, by all means do so. I'm just going to turn my heat down to medium low, and I'm going to go in with all that prepared salted cod into the pot. You know, my Portuguese brothers and sisters, if you guys are watching, this may seem familiar to you, because the pot that I'm using here is straight out of a Portuguese market, just so happened. And we all know, like Caribbean people, the Portuguese, they love some salted cod too as well too. I'm just gonna waken up this oil. We want to flavor this oil with, yo, I'm telling you, this is like umami for Caribbean people. That saltfish there, and according to Slinger, saltfish sweet, if you know what I mean. Time for some garlic, and I love adding a lot of garlic to this. I love adding a lot of onion to this. And I said a lot, so we're going in with a lot. Give that a quick stir. Ooh, the kitchen is smelling wicked at this point here. I'm going to turn my heat down all the way down to low because I want it to gently cook. We've got that Caribbean green seasoning happening. Only noticing the flavors in there. This ain't no small people thing, you know. This is big people food here. But the kids will love it too, eh? Uncle Chris loves to cook for the kids as well too. That pumpkin, yeah. I know mommy never put pumpkin in the stew saltfish. Mommy, sort them out to the pumpkin, man. Oh gosh. I love pumpkin, and ladies and gentlemen, this is why that is making its way in here. And that's why I cut it up really small. It will cook, it will get tender, but it will still hold its shape. And the beauty about adding that pumpkin in here, when you have that salt from that salted cod, yes, it will be a bit salty. You have that fire from that Caribbean sunshine, that Scotch bonnet pepper. The sweetness from that pumpkin will help balance off all those flavors. Now, we love our herbs straight out of my garden. This is some fresh thyme. And, you know, I just love using fresh. If you don't have fresh and you have dried thyme, by all means, you know, I'm not trying to get you to go to the grocery store and search for fresh thyme if you can't find it. But I'm just saying, for better results, in my humble opinion, fresh thyme is the way to go. I'm going to give that another quick stir, and we're going to allow that to cook for about 3 or 4 minutes. Here's where now we're going to add all that chopped tomato in there. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I am using the grape tomato out of my garden. If you don't have grape tomato, if you don't have cherry tomato, you just have regular everyday tomato, all you got to do is cut it up into small pieces and toss it in here. No big deal. Tomato is tomato. We need some scallions in here now. I remember earlier there where we talked about the vibrancy and color of Caribbean culinary culture. Look what's happening here. Just look at the beauty happening in this pot here. I'm telling you, man, you gotta be proud of your heritage, of your roots and things like that. You know, this, I'll be honest with you, this came about because of slavery. There's no two ways about it. But we've turned it into something so delicious, so nice, and such an integral part of our culture. Man, I'm telling you, we can just take things and just take it to another level. You've got to be proud to be Caribbean, yeah? Still cooking though, eh? We're still stewing this down. We're gonna need some black pepper in there. I know we already have some Scotch bonnet in there, but a little black pepper is a totally different flavor profile, in my humble opinion. Yeah, Uncle Chris rocking the electric pepper grinder, yeah, boy. The man lazy. Traditionally, when my mom would make this, she would finish off with some salted butter, or what we call Golden Ray. I am not a huge fan of Golden Ray, plus I'm only trying to sauce that right now. I'm going to turn off my stove, allow the residual heat to help finish cooking things, but we're going to go in with some chopped parsley, again, fresh out of my garden. So dish number 1 done. We've got that stewed saltfish. We shared some tips. I hope you guys enjoyed this recipe. Let's look at that boil and fry cassava now. The cassava should be cool to the touch, so it's nice and cool. And this is the step I was talking about in the center of the cassava. So if I have a full, so this is a full piece. You'll just pull it apart, and in the center there's a sort of a ropey, stringy, I'm not sure how else to describe that. That is tough, that is woody. We are not trying to eat that, so we have to remove that, and this is why we needed it cool. And all you would do is take a paring knife into the center and sort of pry it, and that's it. Then what we would do is cut it up into bite-sized pieces for making it easier for refrying. It took a few minutes, maybe about 5 minutes, to fully prep the cassava now. So That center core has been removed. It's been cut up into bite-sized pieces. And ladies and gentlemen, if you cannot source cassava, or maybe you do not like cassava, green cooking bananas, sweet potato, yam, dasheen, Edos, all of those will work. And if all fails, if all you have is everyday Irish potatoes, you can rock it the same way as well. Boil it up and then fry it up and then top it with that stewed saltfish. I've got a wide saucepan on a medium flame, and I'm going in with 2 tablespoons of olive oil and 2 tablespoons of butter. I'm just going to move that around. Yeah, and it's going to start melting right away. In goes onion. In goes garlic. Move that around a bit there. In goes some scallion. That's going to give it a lovely sort of oniony garlic combination kind of thing. You're going to love me for that one. And again, some fresh ground black pepper. It's very simple. And I'm going to turn our heat down now to low, because we want that to soften up and release all those nice flavors right there in that oil and butter combination. Now, I am not adding any Scotch bonnet pepper to this, nor am I adding salt at any point to this part of the dish, because we already added the Scotch bonnet pepper to the stewed saltfish. We already have that salt element from that salted cod, so we don't need to repeat that. It's been about 4 minutes. The onion is soft, that garlic has done its thing. We're not trying to burn the garlic or anything like that. Ladies and gentlemen, if you wanted to elevate the game just a little bit more, something non-Caribbean that would work great in here, and I've done it many times in the past, is sun-dried tomato. That sun-dried tomato just add a lovely sort of acidic sort of flavor to things here. Yeah, we added the cassava, which we prepped, to the pot, and all we want to do now is give that a mix. But before we do, I'm going to hit it with some parsley, just so the parsley gets incorporated into everything. I'm also going to hit it another tablespoon of butter, and that is salted butter, by the way. If you wanted to hold back on the salt a bit more and use unsalted butter, that will work as well. And that cassava, the reason why we have all that butter and oil and everything in here, it's already been flavored with those, with the onion and the garlic and whatnot. The reason why we have that is for that cassava is going to soak up all of that niceness now and take on all that garlicky onion flavor. But first, we need to cook this on low for about 4 or 5 minutes. It may take on some color, but that's cool. We just want it to be just perfect. 6 minutes later, and you will start seeing a crust form. I don't know if you guys can see the sort of dark bits. That there is where the flavor really lives. So one, you can turn it off at this point and you're good. But if you really want to heighten the flavor and give it that nice golden crust, you can certainly do that. It was certainly a, oh, hold on, look at that. I'm going to tuck in. I've got my fork, I've got my business going on here. I have a little pepper sauce on the side there to sprinkle. It was certainly a pleasure having you guys here in the kitchen with me today. As always, you can find these 2 recipes and over 1,000 recipes with step-by-step instructions, with pictures, with video over at CaribbeanPot.com. And Uncle Chris just love having you guys in the kitchen with me.